Welcome to the hardware review of the VKB Gladiator NXT joysticks. In this multi-part modular review series, we will go into all the details and information about the VKB Gladiator NXT joysticks. In the first part of the video series, we will deal with the unboxing, assembly, basic configuration and a first impression. The hardware for our review was provided by the manufacturer VKB, who was already emphasized in advance that they have no influence on our review. It is therefore our free and uninfluenced opinion. And as in every video, you can jump directly to the parts that are of interest to you, or which you would like to see again, using the timestamps. We start with the different ways to order the VKB Gladiator NXT series, how the pricing looks like and which variants are available. In the review, we will cover the premium edition of the Gladiator NXT series, including the differences to the standard version. And in the second part of the review, which will be published soon, we will go into the installation and configuration options. But first of all, a big thank you to true ladies and gentlemen who made this video possible with their support as Patreons, channel members or Twitch subscribers. Thank you. VKB Sim distributes its product portfolio via two different shops, where we can buy in Europe via flightsimcontrols.com and for the rest of the world via vkbcontrollers.com. Here we can find different joystick series, various expansion modules, thrust controllers as well as accessories and spare parts. In this review, however, we will limit ourselves specifically to the Gladiator NXT joystick series. The premium version for the American market is available for $150, whereas the European price of €185 is a good deal more expensive. However, EU orders are also shipped directly from Europe, which limits delivery times to a few days. The shops also differ in terms of availability for products such as the new GNX Omni Throttle. The differences between the standard and the premium version of the Gladiator NXT lie in the scope of delivery of the accessories, as well as in the premium version, in an addition fire button, an analog mini stick, as well as a head switch, which is not installed in this form in the standard version. Therefore, due to the small price difference, we recommend the premium version of the NXT, which offers real added value and customization options. The Gladiator NXT stick with the base station comes in a more than adequately padded box, with the technology well protected and packed without any wobble. In addition to the stick and the base station itself, we find multiple packed bags with tools, screws, various interchangeable buttons and keys, as well as a different strong spring sets. We also receive a larger handrest, so we can adjust it later to fit small hands, for example. The stick as well as the base station are made of a higher quality plastic, whereas the base plate is made of solid metal and provides stability with its pleasant own weight. With a 1.8 meter long USB 2 connection cable, we already receive a mostly sufficient length in the scope of delivery for the connection to the computer. For our first assembly, we already have all the necessary main parts in front of us with the stick, the base station and the base plate. We could not find any scratches, damage, paint defects or other defects in the scope of delivery. Only one of the screws had a slight damage to the thread, but it was still usable without any problems. The first quality impression during unboxing was of good quality, although most of the parts are made of plastic. The material has a good grip and feels valuable. But let's go to the assembly of the Gladiator NXT joysticks. The assembly is unproblematic, with an enclosed quick start guide as well as an alternatively via the info video that can be used via QR code. However, one tip at this point is to protect the cable of the stick with the enclosed protective tube when connecting it to the base station, as the filigree plug can otherwise quickly get caught and we can risk damage. After plugging it through, we can remove the protective tube and firmly connect the stick to the base with the 3 black screws. And since it is plastic, a rather moderate tightening of the screws is sufficient. These only serve to prevent the stick from being easily pulled out of the base again. We plug the connection cable into the socket on the base, using the cable guide to ultimately fix the connection cable. The base plate is attached to the base station with a rubberized feet facing outwards, and the cut-out area of the base plate is facing forwards. Finally, we connect our fully assembled Gladiator NXT to our computer with an enclosed USB cable at the front. And if you want to use a dual stick setup like we do, we of course also assemble the left counterpart in the same way. The Gladiator NXT is available in both right-handed and left-handed versions, and assembly only takes a few minutes. The 4 rubber pads on the base plate ensure that the Gladiator does not slip and also remains very stable due to its good own weight. But the inner workings also promise high quality with a 32-bit ARM controller in the base and stick, as well as a non-contact magnetic sensor with a high resolution, which we will go into all detail in the second part of the review series. In addition, our setup can be expanded at any time with modules, sliders and various panels, which offer extensive upgrade options. But let's move on to the adjustment possibilities for different hand sizes. I myself, with a hand circumference of 24.5 cm, have the size 9.5 or large. Here, the NXT is easy to grip and all buttons can be reached comfortably. However, there is also room for optimization here. A small hand rest is already installed as standard, although a version about 1 cm higher for smaller hands is included in the scope of delivery. For large hands, it is also possible to remove the existing handrest completely without creating any annoying edges or visual deficits. The option without an additional rest is definitely worth considering for large hands, although for me this was the most comfortable variant. By pressing the button at the bottom left of the stick, which can be triggered with a little finger, you get effective feedback on the appropriate hand position. For a more delicate woman's hand, on the other hand, the maximum handrest is usually the best option, which means that all switches and sticks are optimally accessible. The haptic feedback, as well as the movement resistance of the Gladiator NXT, is pleasant and not too weak. When pressing a switch or button, a clean pressure point is haptically precisable, as well as an audible click. Some buttons also have 2 consecutive pressure points, such as the main fire button. And we'll go into details about the noise of all buttons and keys, as well as the general movement noises in the final third part of the review series. In order to be able to show the general quality impressions visually, we used our rather rarely used Thrustmaster T1600 for comparison, whereby the Gladiator NXT, to be fair, plays in a completely different quality league. The quality level of the NXT is significantly higher, whereby it slides back into the starting position very gently when the stick is released, clearly in contrast to the Thrustmaster. Movement inputs can be given much more finely and softly, whereby the necessary effort has a pleasant effect. Here we are already very curious about the control behavior in the game, which we also be dealt with in detail in the next part of the review series. At the base station, we find 3 buttons, 2 endless knobs and a limited controller that is placed in the middle. The knobs offer a noticeable resistance and can be finely adjusted. In the basic configuration, the stick can be rotated to the left and to the right, whereby it then slides upwards a little at a time, which results in conveying a haptic feedback as to how far we perform a rotational movement, even with its control input. When releasing the stick from a maximum control position, we could not detect any counter movement in the other direction. The stick is returned to the center position in a controlled and gentle manner. And if you don't want the stick to rotate, you can deactivate it by fixing it in place with the screw provided. On the front, we find the USB port, as well as an expansion opening for any additional devices. At the top left, we find the analog mini stick, which also has a push button. On the right side, we find a 4-way switch with a push button, and in the middle we get another 4-way switch, also with a push button. Above this are 2 programmable LEDs. We find the third 4-way switch on the side, which also includes a push button. We find individual buttons on the side of the stick's head, as well as a dual action variant as the main firing button. Here we have 2 stages that trigger one after the other. This function offers a lot of potential, for example to combine actions for firing weapons or to fire several groups of weapons. With a rapid fire button above and a red button in the center, we come to the last button, the pinky button at the lower front end of the stick. In the next part of this review series, we will go into the installation and setup, settings and tips with the software, as well as various customization options for the stick. See you soon!